afternoon, everybody. It's MicheleMarieDalene, and of course, it is the 5th of January of 2013. And as you can see, we have our microphone on, and we're doing a radio broadcast today because of two reasons. Number one, it's dark. Number two, it's late. And number three, my hair looks like, because the roots are showing up, it looks kind of cruddy, and no matter how much I wash it, it still looks pretty crappy. So I figured instead of looking like a dope on camera, I decided just to do a radio broadcast just to keep things simple. First, I want to say to everybody out there who's been watching our videos, congratulations and thank you for keeping me posted on the things that you find interesting. And apparently the last two videos regarding weather reports were not what you wanted, given the fact there was only 8 viewers on the last one, and the only about 15 viewers on the one before that. And of course the request for comments resulted only in 14 viewers, no comments. So I'm a little bit saddened that nobody had particularly spoke up. That's what they were looking for. Today I wanted to talk to you about things that I've been reading in the news. Number one, there is suspicion that there has been a flower found on Mars, according to one journal of Sciences, that say that there is an object that was found in the process of colorizing the Martian images that looked very much like a plant. This is a solitary flower that is coming out of rock. It does not appear to be a artificial construct. Now, if that's the case, that would mean that it would only prove the fact that there is some primitive life still on Mars. And related to that, they also found an asteroid that was over approximately 2 billion years old from Mars that shows that Mars used to be very rich in both oxygen and water, which leads me to think that Mars one time was another green planet in our solar system. What happened to it? We don't really have a clear clue. Rumor says that because of the 1/3 gravity of Earth, that most of the water and the oxygen atmosphere was not able to maintain its tenacious hold on the atmosphere and slowly dissipated into space. Now, that's pretty interesting to think that maybe approximately at least 2 billion years ago that Mars was at least a Earth-like planet. Mars is technically the 4th planet from the Sun. It's a little farther away than Earth, but the indication of the rock sample indicating liquid water and oxygen that exist on the planet leads to the possibility that there may still be water in the subterranean or submersion surface. Of course, the two rovers are out there in searching that, but now scientists are wondering if they should send a more advanced robotic search team to explore and possibly find a way to return rock samples back to Earth so that they can study by themselves the actual rocks and findings of a future Mars explorer. Very interesting. Yeah, but let's talk about something else for a second. I wanted to talk to you about something real briefly about the rape in India. You want to talk about... Okay, I'll let you lead. In India, there was a couple that was raped, both a man and a woman. They were younger, and were in their 20s. And these two individuals got on a bus which was a private bus, because apparently they weren't able to get a ride home from a local rickshaw operator for whatever reason that may be. And so the man and woman got on the bus, and then these men and a juvenile, so 6 adults and one 16-year-old, 17-year-old, started attacking the men and attacked the woman. And then they were really brutal about it. And well, the 6 men, adults, were convicted and will probably be facing a hanging for capital murder charges. The juvenile will spend 3 years in a reformatorium and will be trapped as a juvenile because he's underage. Yeah. the grisly fact is it wasn't just sexual activities they did to this poor girl. They also tore her intestine tracts out. Her small and large intestines were pulled out of her body. Ew. So she was disemboweled. Why, we don't know. And then the 17-year-old who did this deed told them to throw the body out of the bus when it was moving. When they did manage to get off the bus, the man that was with her tried to get an ambulance, but the police came, couldn't decide whose jurisdiction this was, and so they sat there in a just dilly-dally, and finally they got her to the hospital where she died from her complications of her severe injuries. Unfortunately, it's not going to be long before some crazy nut job does the same thing here to Earth and in the United States. In fact, what has already happened is our youth, especially though some people really love to get into a violent culture and love to hurt other people, and this is stupid. It's hurting everybody. It's hurting innocent people. Yeah, let's talk about that. What is the reason why this young man did that? Well, because he's a minor, his answer is not being told to the press. We don't really know why he did it. The adult said that they were trying to teach her a lesson for biting him because she was trying to defend herself against unwelcome exploitation of her flesh. And this is really just an example of what happens when you get people who think that, quote, they're going to teach you a lesson. By the way, related to that, a second trooper in Texas has been charged for doing illegal cavity searches on the highway. Oh, you know what I'm getting at. United States. This is a trooper in Texas. This is the second gentleman that was prosecuted for doing unreasonable search and seizure on a human being. I don't know why she was stopped. I don't know why the reason is. But you're right, and it's the same thing with the TSA. The TSA is saying we're going to punish you by stealing your possessions, and the TSA is already going through airports. A couple of months ago, there was a case where a TSA agent stole money out of a airplane passenger because they say that he was uncooperative, and the TSA wanted to punish him. Now, the first question I have to ask you is first of all, why are they supposed to act like that? They're not. The Transportation Safety Agency, or TSA, was created under George Bush, especially after 9/11, originally to ensure the safety of Americans traveling. Doesn't seem like it's doing any of that job at all. No, it's not. And the reason why people are getting so angry is because our government lied to us. In fact, one news article I just read today said the United States government is not protecting American liberties. In fact, of course not. Our government has a shadow government behind us that is pulling the strings, which is operating by the Illuminati. Okay, well, who are the Illuminati? The Illuminati are a group of people that are high elites. They are, they created their organization the same time we created the United States. And I believe it was in Hamburg, Germany, in 1776. These group of power elite brokers decided to create a whole new one world order. That's what they did. Okay. And what do you think is going to happen now? I think that the problem is right now, we got to watch out for a couple things. Now, Alex Jones, as much as I find his broadcasting alarming, had been talking about how they're trying to take away our gun rights. This country is giving up its freedoms for the thinking that it'd be best if nobody has guns to protect yourselves. Sounds more like a guaranteed way to let the government roll you. And if you're in disability, you really know, and I know this too, is that, like I said before, Social Security disability is a financial trap. It's a trap because of the fact that when you're on a dole, you really don't have much authority to do anything. Because if you speak up against the government, you might find yourself destitute, homeless, broke, or worse. Yeah. And what about the FEMA camps? The FEMA camps tie in with all the government tyranny. So it's just total control. It's total control and total desire to hurt and maim American citizens. Remember, the secret government is pulling the strings. Okay. Do we have any clue of who these secret governments are? Do we have any idea what they represent? Well, I've heard that the secret government people, besides I said they're Illuminati, and even as Jesse Ventura pointed out, they are establishing a huge underground network in the United States that is literally underground. They have this massive control of the infrastructure. They have control of the lobbyists in Washington. So the government people are really, really the honest ones. The ones that really are not the problem are really not aware of what's going on. So they're getting a false truth. They're getting false truth. In fact, George Orwell in 1984 talked about such a government situation where you have the Ministry of Truth, which really is the Ministry of Lies, and of course, the Ministry of Peace is really a Ministry of War. The whole idea is that there's a secret agency which is manipulating the people of the United States and other countries. Not just us. Trust me, we are only one of many of the countries that have been infiltrated this way. The fiscal cliff. The fiscal cliff was a joke. The fiscal cliff is a joke in the sense the solution was. But like I said before, they're going to filibuster, and they're going to come up with some last-minute deal to save their bacon. And unfortunately, I was correct. They did not solve the problem. All they did was they just temporarily did some little things, token things, to straighten out the problem. Yeah, and that didn't work anything. However, one suggestion was for the U.S. Mint to mint a $1 trillion coin. What? A $1 trillion coin in pure platinum, to use this coin to pay the debt. So basically we're giving precious metal in a coin that can be given to other countries as IOU for the payment. No, it's not an IOU. It won't be anybody. It is I must pay you. So I think I can call it IMPU. Okay, IMPU. Yeah, an IMPU. I am paying you, or I must pay you. Right now, the U.S. deficit right now is up to $16.4 trillion. I try to visualize this. $16.4 million. That's a lot of zeros after that. I can't visualize the zeros. It's a lot. Okay, accept it. 6, 6, 6, 6. 9. I think at least, no, not 9. The 10. I can't even visualize that. I have to write it down. These zeros are up to 16.4 trillion. But it's money we don't have. And so, our government is really kind of on the hamstrings. Right now, China has becoming the world superpower. And they became the world superpower because of two reasons. Why? 1970, I think it was 1972, maybe 1973, when Richard Nixon went to China to normalize relations. I think that was the first mistake, because even Napoleon was told, don't wake the sleeping dragon, because he knew, because his advisor told Napoleon Bonaparte, you don't want to go into China, okay. And he said, don't wake the sleeping dragon. That is actually a quote by his advisors. Unfortunately, President Nixon kind of did, and he wanted to normalize trade talk with China. And that's how we got into these situations where we start seeing made in China. It's bad enough it was made in Japan, but and made in South Korea. But then we got into made in China, and that's when all hell broke loose. And then, of course, the signing of NAFTA, and GATT only resulted in us usurping our manufacturing base and our sovereignty. And that's not really what I call a good way to go. No, it's not. Oh, but let me ask you a question here about, speaking of purchases. I know that you were debating something on the video show. I don't know if you're going to do it or not. Tell us about your plans. I was going to get an overhead projector because that way I could at least make transparencies and show projections on a screen so that we could show you things as they're going. Old school, because new school is too expensive for us. Trust me, I can get an overhead projector for probably under $100, and I can secondhand, and I can certainly get the transparency sheets relatively cheap. I can print on my laser printer, and it would allow us to present a piece of medium in a way that really cool. The problem we ran into, Loom, was the cost in the form of video bandwidth. Because you see, when we do our videos, we compress the schmutz out of these things so that we can get the video up onto YouTube in as high of a compressed bandwidth as we can. Which for normal for videos, it's fine. Those people really need the details. But when you're going to start showing visual graphics like transparencies, you really need the quality out there. It has to be really, really good for people to see you're showing something on a graph. Because if you ever take our videos and you blow them up on a standard 15-inch diagonal monitor, remember the resolution is pretty lousy. It's iPod resolution, and so that's great for, like I said, video when you're looking at me and you're on the camera. Yeah, but when you start going to go out there and you're going to start showing transparencies of from websites and things like that, you got to have quality that's good enough so people can read what you're showing them. Otherwise, you're going to see a bunch of pixels on the screen and they're not going to be able to read nothing. So that would mean that we'd have to find a way to find the bandwidth in the room to put bigger videos up on YouTube. So are we still going to consider it, or are we going to ixnay it, or what? I don't know yet. Okay. Because, I mean, it's a lot of possibilities that I need to consider. And like I said, the overhead projector is not too expensive. The ability to broadcast to America on YouTube is certainly important. But we also have another problem, which I think ever since I came out of my Asperger's, everybody just kind of disappeared. Yeah, they disappeared because I think they were afraid that you're going to one of those people who was a nut job that was going to go out there on camera and start threatening to kill people. I'm not a killer. I know that. You're not a killer. You're a peace lover. Yeah. But unfortunately, I think a lot of people kind of tended to take it that way. That ever since Anna Blanza and Tim Holmes. James Holmes. People tended to think that, people like me are, without even knowing me, they tend to think that I'm like one of those people. And so it kind of really hurt my reputation. But I wanted to be honest with the people because they really want the honest questions. And I learned long ago, if you don't give the people the truth, they're going to make up some story just to fill in the blank. If you stay silent, if you plead the fifth or anything like that, or you don't see anything, they're going to assume the worst. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's a very big problem when you're getting on the internet. Is that people tend to expect you to be this crazy nut job, or an outspoken person like Alex Jones, or even George Norrie. I've been listening to a lot of his broadcasts on both gentlemen, and I think that George Norrie is more like what I'd rather go for in concept, because he seems to be more level-headed. Yeah. Another thing too is that there's, like I said before, radio has a lot of interesting angles to it. I don't have a YouTube audio person. I'd love to see this. A YouTube that has the same kind of concept as YouTube, but only deals with radio broadcasts directly. So that if you're going to, what would you call it? U-speaker? U-speaker? How about you-ear? You-ear. Or you-hear. You-hear. I like that better. Catch us on youhear.com. Yeah, I'd like that one. That's a kind of cute title. In other words, YouTube for audio. Okay? No videos, just live audio broadcasts or streams like this one that can go out there and you can listen to them. I mean, let's be honest. I don't have a problem watching videos when I'm in bed, but the problem is that I like radio because radio, lets me, sit there and just listen to what the announcer's saying. And sometimes the announcers really get into it really good and really speak to the audience. Speaking of that, who is your favorite figurative or real radio people? My favorite person was Chris in the Morning from K-Bear on Northern Alaska. There's things that Chris Stevens did as a character that I really would like to do here. Like read books. Yeah, read books. Remember the book we worked on a little earlier? I think we'll put that on at the end of this. I think that would be good to hear that. And, of course, I'll be honest, folks, we are still working on the audio levels for the radio broadcast. Just a couple technical mites to fix. Yeah. And, it's a good story. And it's, I gotta warn you right now, it is kind of fun. Lumi reads doing part of a list of the character that I read, of course, part of Michele. And we get into it's a story of a woman in Torrington who meets up with a dryad and then becomes one herself. There's a second part to that book, which I did not do as a radio broadcast, but I think we will do it soon. And I think both would be a really great idea, so we can get those two shows together. Yeah. So what happens now? What are we going to do with the future? I think that the problem right now is that me and you are running into a lot of our listeners are leaving. We're down to 9 subscribers. We really didn't have a lot anyway. But I think that I really want to reach more people. I feel there's a lot of things that need to be said, and I don't think I can reach them because I don't know where to start. It's just so easy to get lost in all the videos that are out there. There's just so many videos. And some of the videos are really visual, and some of them don't even have any dialogue at all with them. They're just, they got little subtitles, and then they got this horrible music for background on. Some of the music is horrible, some of it's not. But that brings up a whole other problem, which is that music on a video and YouTube's music and copyright policies really, really make it hard for us to find the material that we want to present to the people. And that's because YouTube has created a policy where we have to do things a certain way or else, yeah. You're right. And I think it's really, really hurting us because how do you get around? Okay, I know on the opening ceremony you were going to have music. I know that you did 3 songs, but then you decided not to put that video on YouTube. Could you explain to the audience why that was? Because the problem is that because the 3 songs were copyrighted songs, the first one was Happy Holidays, and then there was What Child Is This, and then the last one was We Wish You a Merry Christmas. We Wish You a Merry Christmas by Debbie Reynolds, and we had to leave those 3 songs out. I'm not a bad singer, mind you. Not great, but I'm not bad. And the problem is that we could not put those on there because we didn't have time to get to contact with all the different agencies to get the licenses. And so we had no choice but to remove it, even though it was for a special thing. YouTube policies would have resulted in all kinds of problems. We did manage to get the music on the tour, though. Yeah, we did manage to keep that music, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody actually decides to point out to YouTube that there was no permission granted, that they might take off the music, and then, of course, or you wake up one day, you go turn on your phone to see the video, and then all of a sudden it says, this video is not available on portable devices. That's when we ran into our very first video, and so I just kind of left me kind of like, gee, now how am I supposed to do? I mean, I don't want to get into trouble. I am not a person who wants to break the law, but I do need. Sometimes I try to find a piece of music that will be something that people would like. I don't play the piece of music just in certain places. It's not like I sit there and play the whole album. I know, for example, like in our tour video of my apartment, In My Room by the Beach Boys was chosen because it was very perfect for the beginning montage. It really fit like a glove. Yeah. And if I had to, if the Beach Boys wants to contact me about that, and or the copyright holder, and explain to me the proper licensing on that, I would like to make it officially licensed so I can get around any headaches. So you can do that, of course, by contacting me here on YouTube, or of course by email, and I will gladly work with you on the royalties. But I gotta be, I'm not a big business. I don't make a lot of money. Yeah. So okay, so we're working on this new studio. We got this. You've been working in the studio now. It's been a while since we did a radio show. It has been. What do you think? Where do you think the internet is going? The internet is really not as good as it used to be anymore, because there's a lot of different reasons. The first thing is the good news is the internet goes everywhere. Yeah. But it also means you got people on the internet who really, really are not out there to serve the community in a positive way. They are out there for money making, for their own self goals. People like me there are a few of us out there that really do worry about people, and they want to serve the community. But obviously they have a hard time with dealing with the issues in their lives, but they don't go out there and say, please go to my website and, snowqueenshop.com and buy our parkas and sweaters and things like that. No. No, we don't have anything like that. And I really would feel very uncomfortable doing that. Well, speaking about weather, yeah, okay, now, and the latest information from the National Weather Channel here in the U.S. says that the United States right now has got 64% coverage of snow. Yes, but it said some of the major cities have very low snowfall. Yeah, that's true. In fact, Massachusetts and Boston only got like 9/10 of an inch, a little bit less than 2 centimeters, a little bit less than 2 centimeters for the whole season so far. Which is actually quite a shy of the 26 centimeters they get during the year. So this is really, big issue. Now the Army Corps of Engineers want to redirect the water from the Missouri into the Mississippi to prevent barges from running aground. And one person said to me on the 2012 forum, he said, Michele, you better work pretty fast because, the situation is getting really, really bad. The drought has not been resolved. You don't got enough snow. We don't got enough snowpack to get the aquifers refilled. It's really not easy to do that. And I confess to my brothers and sisters and to you, my mighty God and Goddess, that I haven't really been working on it quite as well as I should. I've been having a lot of personal issues, as you know, in the last few weeks. We lost our cat, on the 14th, and then our friend died 10 days later on Christmas Eve. Ouch. So our human friend died, and then, of course, the cat died first. And, of course, those two things really took a toll on us. And then this month I'm in financial austerity, so I'm dealing with a very small, in fact, very limited budget. Very limited. Yeah, because I unfortunately, in December, because of the 2012 preparations, I ended up spending much more money than I should have, and I wasn't able to pay some of my bills at that time. So now I had to make them up this month to keep things going as good as they are. What is the future for your budget in the near future? Well, in March, my cell phone contract expires, and I'm thinking about just canceling my cell phone contract completely because I'm here more than I'm out, and so I don't really need to have the cell phone plan. My cell phone also works as a regular smartphone on the internet, so I could just go ahead and just use it to access the web and things and use the calendar function and the computer. I don't really need the internet part of it. In fact, if anything, the internet part of the cell phone is really costing me a lot of money. And then I had some clowns are sending me text messages over and over and over and over and over, and I told them don't send me text messages because it cost me $1.30 a piece, and they wouldn't stop, and I was giving them excuse messages. And that was creating a lot of financial hardship. So I signed up for unlimited talk and text messages for mobile minutes, another $20. So I brought my cell phone bill from 76 all the way up to 100, and that's really not a very good way to go financially. And that's just asking for a really bad time. So I said to Ed, you know what, I'm canceling my cell phone in March because I don't really need this. I do use it for texting, but I don't use it for much else. Yeah. So, you watch videos on it, and you listen to Shellcast on it, and you watch Alex Jones on it, and listen to Coast to Coast AM. So, you're not really into the video stuff. You're not into talking on the phone. Well, with my hearing limits, talking on the phone is a very problematic issue anyway. Yeah. And the other thing is, like I said, it's $100 a month. I just went out the door. It's not. I'm not getting my money's worth. What do you think about the newer iPhones out there? I know that there's now come up with some new designs, but what do you really think of it? After the iPhone 3GS, iPhones started getting god-awful ugly. I am not really impressed with the shape of the new one. It looks like a slab. It literally looks like a little brick. You can visualize this. My friend had an iPhone 4. I took one look at it. I said, this is not very pretty. It's ugly. And I said, this thing is just, it's boxy. It doesn't feel good in my hand. The flash on it is a joke. Sure, it has a flash, has a front camera, rear camera, but it just was just a lousy phone. I like the iPhone 3GS, but I have to admit the 3GS has got its limitations too. And of course, one of the things is the battery life on the sucker is like lousy. You watch videos on that phone, and you're tethered to an outlet because, your battery can go drained really quick, especially on 3G or even on Wi-Fi. So you're not really getting the kind of talk time that I would consider good for a cell phone to be feasible. What about Good afternoon, everybody. It's MicheleMarieDalene. I know it's a radio broadcast, but that's okay because my hair looks like crap and wrinkly. It's going to be retouched next week. And I figured today, we're going to tell a story And it's one of the stories that I had worked on quite some time ago. This is available on Elfwood if you want to find it. It's called Alyssa the Dryad. I'm going to read this part first. It's very short. And some of you might enjoy it. Some of you probably will not. So for those of you who are immature children, turn the video off, because this is really not for children. This is more of for young adults, or at least teenagers in high school, and older. So if you are a child, you definitely don't want to listen to this. Let me just get this comfortable here. Now, me and Lomi will be reading parts of this. She will be narrating the voice of Alyssa, and I'll be narrating myself. One day I was bored and took a different route back to my cramped apartment on Litchfield Street from Charlotte Hungerford Hospital. As I was walking, I noticed and felt the excitement as nature was preparing to reveal its wondrous explosions of life. Very much like hearing an orchestra warming up before the concert. I was looking at one tree in particular. It was a maple tree, and I noticed a woman sitting next to it. She wasn't quite a typical human female. She was of normal human height, but I noticed that she stood out. It was her brown, gray, tree bark colored dress. The dress appeared to be a print, but unlike my white dress with flowers and leaves, it had a tree bark pattern. Her beautiful brown eyes looked at me with sadness. I could see she wasn't quite happy. I stopped next to her and looked at her closely. Her brownish black hair was shoulder length, with small leaves and flowers weaved in. "What's wrong?" I asked her. She said, "Oh, it's just that I have been here for so long, but nobody knows I exist. People don't really look at the dryads such as myself, who live with our trees. I am bored and alone. I want to tell my story, but I cannot leave my tree unless I can find a substitute to take my place. If I did, my tree would die, and so would I." I nodded sadly. Well, I would be willing to listen to your tale, and perhaps I would be willing to watch your tree for a time. She smiled softly. "Really? That would be wonderful. Let me first introduce myself. I am Alyssa, originally a human girl. I never did choose a new name. My tree is a sugar maple, as you can see." I nodded. "Yes, I can see that. I thought dryads lived in or with oak trees." She smiled warmly. "Oh, that's not entirely true. Not all trees have dryads, but all dryads have a tree. But many dryads were humans before they became dryads, as I was." Her sweet scent of maple sugar was creating a strange reaction within me. I wasn't sure. Lust? No, not lust. Desire? Yes, that. But why? Of course, being a lesbian, that wasn't unexpected. She was a very plain, but to me, she was just as perfect as the best Hollywood supermodel. Her voice was soft and warm. The thought of warm milk slowly being consumed. She smiled. Her smile was like a warm sunshine on my face. Oh, how I tried to find the right metaphor, and was without words that truly expressed how I was feeling in her radiance. Many trees want a dryad who acts as an advocate for the tree. In turn, the tree provides protection and shelter. Sadly, not many today want to take on the responsibility. Many rather kill nature and live with man-made goods instead of living in harmony. I sighed. That's true. I always believe that humans must remember that we are not the super race. We need nature, and just as we need oxygen and water. Throw out nature, and you throw out the main part of humanity, I said with an honesty. I was finding myself looking more and more at Alyssa's eyes, though its brown color spoke deeply of the warmth of the woodlands, the strength of her love. Yet, I noticed that she also was looking back at me. I sensed a longing for more than just a substitute for the tree. She wanted someone to fulfill her deeply rooted dreams of desire. She smiled as she touched my hand. Her hand was soft and delicate compared to mine. Mine was like a bear paw to hers. I felt a tingle, a surge of emotion. Robert Palmer's Addicted to Love was running through my head at that point. A very pleasant feeling. Very pleasant feeling that I wanted to explore with Alyssa. Sadly, I had to snap back to the present moment. I was without words. Her scent was pouring into my nostrils. Her touch was, too much. I felt my body burning with unbridled desire. She noticed it too. Oh no. I did it again. I don't have any way to control this power. I blinked as I struggled against my control. You don't? Haven't you had a relationship? She looked at me sadly. No. Maybe that's why. I'm alone most of the time. And I'm a lesbian, I think. Perhaps that's why you're feeling my desires. If you and I became a couple, you would be required to find a tree too. One dryad per tree. Fortunately, we are not encased by our trees, unlike the hamadryads. It is a fair warning. I said as I touched her soft hair. If we did, would we lose our trees? Or is it irrelevant? She sighed as she sagged into my arms. Her scent again was overbearing. Part of the scent was her pheromones. Part of it was the season of early spring. And part of it was I wanted to have her to be part of my life forever. Anyone who ever had an addiction could relate. Strong desires can drive anyone mad, especially if one tries to deny them. I didn't want to deny them. Like Alyssa, I haven't had a deep, intimate relationship for years. Here was the perfect person, and I was trying to restrain the eager spirit. Mine. How old are you? You look about 20. She smiled. Actually, it's my tree. It gives me my appearance of youth. I am 40 years old. How old are you? She asked as she touched my hair. Believe it or not, I am the same age. If I took on a tree, would I look younger too? That depends. If you choose a healthy and strong tree, yes. Whoa, if you choose a sickly tree, you would look older and sickly yourself. How do you choose the tree? I asked as I again felt her desire overpowering me. You look for the tree, and the tree looks for you. When you find each other, you join together. Of course, you can go looking on your own, but if the tree you choose doesn't want you, and you force the bond, it will reject you, and you will die. It wouldn't, as it did not agreed to the bond. Alyssa asked him to follow her as we walked through the trees. As you will find, the farther you are from your tree, the more you miss its comfort, she said quietly, squatting and peed in the bush. Obviously, you don't lose your human functions. The woods provides you with the food and water you need. My tree also provides me with its maple sugar. I sighed as I watched this little one almost dance through the woods. I wanted to be with her so strongly that I was ready to give it all up, completely. To be with her. The birds above me quietly called and sang to each other. I felt the strong presence of the trees as they stood as if they were doing an inspection of me. One pine I could feel was very interested. I asked Alyssa what she felt of pine trees. She said, softwoods are pleasant to work with, but pines are sappy. Your beautiful red hair would be full of sap and you would find it hard to clean up. I frowned sadly. That's what I thought. As we were walking back to her tree, I saw a maple tree 2 down from hers that caught my eye. I felt that I may be of interest to it as well. What of that maple tree? I pointed out to Alyssa. She smiled as she kissed me. That, my love, would be perfect. We would be able to travel back and forth. We could build a small home among the two. Love? So it wasn't just me that had feelings. She did as well. Well, I do have an apartment to clear out. She stopped and looked at me. How far is it from here? You don't have to live in the forest if it isn't too far. You could visit. I could visit you too, her soft voice said with hope and yearning. I sighed. I was in it for life. About 15 minutes on foot. Not far. Or is it? She smiled. No, that's all within the safety zone around the tree. Providing you come every day to revitalize. And you don't, you will begin to feel homesick for your loving tree and me too. However, stay away for weeks and you will begin to physically die. Somehow, the thought of being away from her for too long was unbearable. I want you to be part of my life forever. I don't want to lose you. I felt her melt in my arms as I passionately kissed her. Our emotions flared up in a tempest as we drew together even more and more closely. Oh, the ecstasy! Oh, the bliss! She smiled as I laid down with her in the maple leaves. I could almost sense the forest was applauding. I saw little hearts floating in the air above our heads. I didn't want this to end. Tired and relaxed, she stared at me with a small smile the size of Massachusetts. Now I know. It wasn't an accident meeting you. You and I, we were meant to be a couple. She leaned over and deeply kissed me. Oh, her intoxicating maple scents were doing it to me again. Seems I had a smell that was just as appealing. She and I had another round of intimacy. It was getting dark. She walked me over to my future tree as she placed my hand on its trunk. All you need to do is ask it to accept you. If it will, you will feel the bond grow. If not, you will look for another tree. I sighed as I looked at the tree in the twilight. How do I ask thee? I would like to bond with thee, I pleaded as I continued to feel the tree's interest. I don't want to be too far from Alyssa. Would you please accept me? I felt a strong force with a wood-like voice. I do. And you and Alyssa will always be together until death. I felt something leave my body. I wasn't sure what it was or how it was done, but I felt a soft tug, and something was gone. Just as a gentle was a soft push of something into my body, a part of the tree's nature. Suddenly, I didn't feel so old anymore. I felt strong and joyful. Not quite the same as with Alyssa, but rather the joy of having found my place here in the woods. Finally, after many years of searching to find my niche, I have found what I needed, a piece of natural heaven, in addition to a beautiful person to spend eternity with. I wrote that when I was living in Willamette, or in Torrington, Connecticut, and it's actually one of two short stories. The other one is a matching piece of it. It goes into detail of Alyssa and how she became a dryad, which is quite a read in its own, and I will read that to you some other time. But for now, I want you to think of something. Maybe it's time, especially if you're down and lonely, scared, whatever. Maybe it's time to reevaluate where you are and see if it's really your right choice. Wish you guys luck. Bye. Bye.